It's a new year, and you might even have a new insurance policy. But if you don't have a new insurance policy, you might be missing out on some important changes in Maryland's laws. We're going to talk about it today on Monday Morning Lawyer. Good morning and welcome back on this snowy day here in Elkton. This is your accident and injury guy, Attorney Bowers, coming at you from my office. Yeah, that's right. I braved it to get in here. In fact, well, there's like 2 inches out there, maybe at most, even though they were telling us that we were getting pummeled with 7 to 10, maybe more. We'll see, because I still see some flurries out there. Maybe this gets bigger. Maybe this gets worse. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Ted. I see you on there on Facebook. Great to have you guys here. The show goes on regardless of what the weather is outside. Today, we are talking about something super important. No surprise, it's your auto insurance policy. We talk about insurance a lot on the show here because it ties in directly with how you are protected if you are injured in an auto accident, which is obviously the primary reason why you would call an accident or an injury attorney. But this information is out here to be given to you before you get into an accident. And obviously, the possibility of getting into an accident on a day like today, even though we did not get happy birthday, Laurie. Yes, a little snow for your birthday. I don't know if that's what you wished for or not, but it's here. And it doesn't look like it's going anywhere. Although as I look out the window, it looks like the flurries have all but stopped for now. Who knows? I'm seeing all sorts of different stuff in the forecast. But today, on a day where if you are out there on the road, and certainly if you have the ability to stay home or stay put wherever that is, please do so. Safety first, always safety first. But I want to talk about your auto insurance policy and specifically new changes in a law that eventually, but not necessarily yet, will make it easier for you to have better coverage here in Maryland on your auto policy. In the past, we have discussed underinsured motorist coverage. We've talked about it a lot. It comes up in context of the way that it is a way that you know that no matter who hits you, no matter who causes an accident, who they're insured with, how much insurance they have, if they're even insured at all, that you are protected. We've talked about those limits. We've also talked a little bit here and there about a coverage called enhanced underinsured motorist coverage. Now, this is something that's relatively new in the past couple of years, but has been changed the way that it's implemented leading up to a recent change in the law as of last July 2024, July 1st. In Maryland, a lot of our laws either go into effect July 1st or October 1st. So they get passed, they get signed, and then there's still a waiting period. This enhanced underinsured motorist coverage, it's something that we've talked about before. And again, your underinsured motorist coverage is the way that you protect yourself. We've talked about the whole coffee cup, the coffee cup that is insurance coverage here in Maryland and most other states, but we're going to specifically talk about Maryland, obviously, because I'm a Maryland injury lawyer. You can get a lot of different sizes. So when you get uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage, I've stressed how important it is to make sure that you have the proper coverage and the proper size policy, the proper size coffee cup to protect you, to protect your assets, to protect. And I always tell people, imagine that you were injured to the point where you were unable to work for 6 months or more. So think about your wages and what you would make in that time frame. Think about the medical care, and you may not have the proper perspective. You know what you make. So taking that annual number and cutting it in half would tell you what you'd be out over a 6-month period. But the medical bills that go along with the care that you would receive, probably a surgery if you're out of work for that period of time. These are hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical bills. So part of what you're going to get, and we've offered this before, this offer is never going anywhere as long as I am running this office, as long as I am capable of giving my absolutely 100% free insurance policy reviews. As part of this, it's not just me spitting out information and suggestions, but it's a conversation that we're going to have where it's like, hey, if you were in this type of accident, this is what we might expect to resolve the case for. If you were in that type of accident, that way you know that you have ample insurance coverage for it. But specifically this enhanced underinsured motorist coverage, it's newer in the past handful of years. It's not even 10 years old. And it is something that when it was first put into play, you either had to ask for it or the insurance company could offer it to you, but they could be kind of sneaky about it and say, hey, do you want this? No. Okay, cool. You want the cheaper policy. Yes. It is coverage that will cost you a little bit more money. Now, it used to be something where, again, when the law was originally passed, you had to opt into it. Now it is something that on a new policy written July 1st of 2024 or later, they have to offer it to you, and you have to say, no, I don't want this, which you shouldn't do. You want this policy. You want this type of policy. Here's what happens. You get hit by somebody. We don't know what kind of insurance coverage they have. Let's say that you have a $100,000 uninsured motorist coverage policy. Your company's going to pay no more than $100,000 towards your injury claim if the other person doesn't have insurance or doesn't have sufficient insurance. Let's say that the other driver has a Maryland state minimum policy, the smallest cup you can get, of $30,000. And let's say that you're hurt substantially. Maybe you've had a surgery, maybe you've missed a lot of time from work, whatever it is, we're going to say that your accident case is worth $200,000 if we were to take the case all the way to a jury and have them give us a verdict. Now, again, juries are a little bit unpredictable. You never know. But just for the example, we're going to say that the case is worth $200,000. Here's how it goes to work. The insurance company for the at-fault driver, who only owes 30 grand, the other driver may owe more, but the insurance company only has an obligation to cut a check for $30,000. So they'll do that. They're going to send that $30,000. Your insurance company with $100,000 in underinsured motorist coverage, if it is the normal standard 10 years ago or beyond policy, the policy that you probably have right now without the enhancement, they're going to take that 100,000 and they're going to say, oh, we get credit for the 30,000 that the at-fault company paid. Here's 70,000 bucks. So you're going to get 30 plus 70 equals the 100 total. Now, there are some more complicated ways that could be, who sends the checks and who pays what. We're not getting into that today. The newer law, so if you were to go out and buy a brand new vehicle today, which you probably wouldn't do in this weather, but let's just say, because there's no better time to buy a vehicle than when nobody else is on the lot because they want to make that sale. But we're not getting into that today either. You are offered, and let's say that you accept the enhanced underinsured motorist coverage. Let's say you get in that same accident. Now, with the enhanced underinsured motorist coverage, you get the $30,000 from the first insurance company, plus the full benefit of the $100,000 from your insurance company. So even though the case is worth $200,000, what we'll collect from insurance companies is $130,000. Is it possible to collect the rest of that money from the person who caused the accident? Sure, it's possible. It's very, very difficult. It involves other attorneys that do the collection work. But that's another conversation for another day. And it's the reason why I spend this time educating you on things that you can do with your own policy so we don't have to worry about collecting an excess judgment. There's enough money there to collect it. Now let's look at that same scenario, the same accident, the same $200,000 value, so to speak, for the case. And let's say that the other driver also has a $100,000 liability policy, and you have $100,000 in uninsured motorist coverage. And we're going to walk through both of those scenarios. So, $200,000 verdict. The at-fault insurance company with their $100,000 coverage is going to write the check for $100,000 and send it in. Then with your policy, if you have the old standard version of uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage, they've got a $100,000 obligation, and they're going to look over there and say, oh, well, the other company already paid 100 grand, so we're out. That's with the old standard version. What does this mean? And again, we've talked about this time and time again, how you can't pick who hits you. You can't pick who they're insured by, and you can't pick how much insurance they have. You can only control your own scenario. If you have a situation where an accident is caused by somebody who has a $100,000 policy, and you have a standard, not enhanced $100,000 policy, you're going to get no extra money, none whatsoever, because your insurance company is going to get credit for what the other company's already paid. However, if you have the enhanced uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage, which if you go to your agent, and please buy your insurance through an agent, don't just buy it online. The deficiencies that I see in 90% of the policies that have some sort of a deficiency were bought online. Most of the time when you buy through an agent, you at least know more of what we're talking about on episodes like this, because the computer, when you're just click, 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 give me this coverage, isn't going to explain any of this to you. It's actually designed to not explain it to you so that you waive and pass on important coverage like what we're talking about today. So now let's get into that. You have the enhanced underinsured motorist coverage, which means your company's policy, your policy stacks on top of the other person's policy. So if they had 100,000 and you had an enhanced 100,000 and we got a verdict of 200,000, the first insurance company is sending you a check for 100,000. The second insurance company is sending you a check for 100,000. $200,000 total. Everything is getting paid, and you don't have to worry about collecting a cent from the at-fault driver, which, quite frankly, you're never going to get all of that money. It's almost impossible to collect all of that money. There are too many ways to make that go away. And sometimes it takes longer than others, but that excess verdict that you think you're going to get isn't going to get fully paid 99% of the time. So the enhanced underinsured motorist coverage is super important. So what do? Number one, look out for it. If you have a brand new vehicle that you are insuring for the first time, they have to offer it to you. Don't waive it. Tell them you want it. It's a no-brainer. And when you talk to that agent, you'll find out that it's only going to cost you a couple dollars, maybe $10 every 6 months to have it versus the old version. It's not super expensive. If you have a current policy on a vehicle that you have no intention of getting rid of anytime soon, especially if you have one from a couple years ago where the interest rates are only like 2-3%, and now you look at getting a new vehicle, and if you have A+ credit, you're going to get a 6 or 7% interest rate. A lot of people are out there with 20% interest rates, or if you were going to go buy something today, a 20% interest rate. So more and more people, because of these interest rates, I believe are going to be holding on to vehicles for longer. You can always call your agent and say, hey, I want to know more about the enhanced underinsured motorist coverage. What would it cost to add that? It's not going to be a whole lot. You can always ask, you can always have it added. And again, especially on days like today where the weather's not great, if you have to be out there driving, you want to be as protected as possible. And you have all of the control over that coverage. So I'm going to reiterate an offer that I haven't made in quite some time about these insurance reviews. Anytime, if you are a Maryland driver and you have a vehicle that is registered and insured here in Maryland, send me an email right there, info@bowerslawmd.com, and say, hey, I want you to review my insurance policy. I'll respond with what I need because I'm going to need information about what's on your policy. And we can schedule a time. I'll take a look at it. I will give you a physical report. And the best thing about this physical report is that it is in a language, English, of course, it is set up in a way that you are going to easily understand what changes I'm recommending. But it's not something that when you send this to your insurance company, your insurance agent, they're going to take one look at this and be like, I can do all of that. They're going to know immediately what it means. So it's going to be in language that they understand and you can understand very, very easily. And still at no cost whatsoever. I will never, ever, ever charge you. Not you, not your friends, not your family members, not your neighbor, not that guy or gal that's kind of 2 doors down and across the street that you're not quite sure if you really like them or not, but somehow you got into a conversation about their insurance policy. I know, weird. It's not something we're out there looking to do. Anybody who is insured in Maryland, you don't have to be watching this. You don't have to actually be a client. If you are a client, I've already had this conversation with you because I kind of break down everybody's insurance policy and say, hey, this is what's good and this is what I would change about your policy. Anytime, shoot me that email. I will review this policy. We will have a chat. It can be on the phone. It could be via something like Zoom or Google Meet. It can be in person in my office. $0 for me to take a look at and tell you what I think about your auto insurance policy. And you can ask me whatever, what if this happens and what if that happens, questions that you want. I've been doing this here in Elkton for over 10 years. Overall, close to 20. I'd have to do the math to figure out exactly how long I've been doing this. I am hard pressed to even imagine a question that you would have about an automobile accident that happens here in Maryland that I haven't had something to do with, that I haven't helped somebody with, that I don't have the answer to. I am probably going to be able to answer your what if question and tell you how things that you can do to your auto insurance policy are going to make it so that you are better protected should one of those things happen. Thanks all of you for tuning in. I know this was a little bit of a longer episode than we normally do. But if you have questions or if you want me to review your auto policy, info@bowerslawmd.com. If you actually are dealing with an accident and you need help right here, give us a call immediately. As you know, hey, here I am. This is my office. This is live streaming. So I'm here in my office right now. So if you were to get into an accident today, somebody else's fault, you need help running through this, call us today. We're here to help you. We'll be here tomorrow, whenever. So yeah, hopefully this is some helpful information for you. If you end up watching this and you have more questions now than you did before I started the episode, call, email, happy to walk you through it. Happy to take a look at your policy. Again, if you're seeing this for the first time and you haven't seen this offer before, I am not an insurance agent. I'm an attorney who deals with auto accidents, which means when I take a look at your policy and I give you recommendations, there's no price on it. I'm not selling you a policy. I am not licensed to sell auto insurance. I'm not going to try to sell you a policy because I can't do it. I just want to make sure that you have the information that you need to protect you if you're ever in one of these situations. And here in Maryland, you can't fix it after the accident happened. You have to take this information now. You have to put it into play. You have to fix your policy. That way, if somebody does cause an accident and you or your family members, loved ones are injured, you're protected. So thanks all for tuning in. Be safe out there, especially in this weather. Be well. And again, if you need me for anything auto accident related, give me a call. If you have other questions and topics legally that you want to see on this podcast, even if they're not accident related, shoot me an email right here, info@bowerslawmd.com. Make sure you let me know that you want it to be a topic on the podcast. If it's auto accident related, and we had somebody after last week's broadcast say, hey, you should talk about this, we're going to talk about that most likely next week. So you're going to see, at least somebody's going to see the effect of them asking a question and me putting it into play on the podcast probably next week. So thank you for that. If it's not related to something that I do, we're going to split this screen. There's going to be two people on here. It's going to be me talking to an expert, an attorney who does handle whatever the topic of the question is, talking about exactly it, and giving you more information and a resource if you need help with that situation. So again, be well, be safe out there, especially in this weather, and we'll see you right back here next week. Thank you.